thank you for being willing to sit down with us at the MyCare Foundation to talk about your patient experience with your disease. Before we get in and talk about your disease, I was hoping you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
I'm John. I was in the military for 10 years, was a firefighter, paramedic for nearly 30 years, and I am a histoplasmosis patient. I first was really not diagnosed, and then I was misdiagnosed, and so my wife moved me out of that hospital, and I got to Dr. Andre Speck at Washington University, and he got me turned around, and here I am.
Okay, I'm Mary Meyer. I'm John's wife, obviously. I am a stay-at-home mom, not anymore because all our kids are gone, but I have been able to stay home, and I was able to take care of John through his illness.
Well, again, thank you for being willing to share your story with us. And John, thank you for your service both in the military and as a firefighter. And Mary, thank you for your service taking care of John so well. So tell us a little bit about how your illness started, what it was like when you first got sick, before you were even diagnosed.
I started out with vomiting. I started losing weight. I didn't lose my appetite, but I started losing weight, and I became very fatigued on a regular basis. And all that just mounted up and got worse and worse over a period of a couple months. I was admitted to a hospital. I was there for, I guess, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. And I wasn't diagnosed at all. They just kept telling me, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. They kept checking me for different things. And finally, Mary said, we gotta do something because nothing was being done. So she got me out of there, got me to Washington University, where I was diagnosed. And this all changed my life with histoplasmosis. It damaged my lungs. I'm out of breath. I lost most of my muscle mass. I can still do day-to-day things with no problem. I just can't do a triathlon. I can't, do a lot of the things that I can't fight fire or do that job. So here I am.
How long did it take you to get before you were diagnosed with histoplasmosis?
Let's see. You started getting sick like March, April, and he wasn't actually diagnosed until August.
Oh my goodness. And how was that, watching John's health deteriorate, Mary?
It was horrible because at first I was like, maybe you're allergic to like your blood pressure medicine that you just changed. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And we would continuously go to doctors after doctors and do all kinds of tests, and nobody could figure it out. And then it was like, you need to see the pulmonologist. So we see the pulmonologist, and he calls and tells us that John has lung cancer, that he lit up. That was in July. And then they're like, you have to see a cancer doctor, and you have to see, you have to get a bone marrow, the bone marrow test and a lung biopsy. And we did all of that. And then he got a pneumothorax and ended up in the ER. And that's when they came down and were like, we think it might be histoplasmosis. And I'm like, well, you need to write that down because 2 days ago you told me he had lung cancer. So now you're telling me it's something different. And getting to that diagnosis, because they really didn't know how he would have even gotten it, was difficult to watch because everything was never right. It was always something different every single day when you talk to somebody. And they're like, we don't know what it is for sure, but it could be.
And they tested me every day for HIV for what, 7 days, 8 days, something like that. They tested me every day. Well, it came back negative
Every time.
every day.
Did they explain to you why they were testing you for HIV?
No, they really didn't. I think they were just.
They weren't sure what he had, so they kept testing for
Yeah.
everything. And I would ask, I'm like, what are you testing today for? And they're like, oh, we're going to test him for this. And then they're like, we're going to test him again for the histoplasmosis because you can test it by blood or urine. And John never became positive by urine. It was always the blood work. Well, then
For histo.
So then they were like, okay, we have to send this off. And then I don't know if it just didn't get sent off. And then the next day they would be in there they're like, we're testing for histo again. And I'm like, what happened to yesterday's test? It was like a nightmare. Like you were living in a nightmare.
Sounds a bit like Groundhog's Day, where you just keep going through the same thing over and over and over.
It was.
It doesn't get any better.
It was.
It was. And they did a needle biopsy of my lung that caused a pneumothorax. They did the bone marrow testing, and that hurts. The needle biopsy hurts, and the pneumothorax, and it just was, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and it just piled up, but there was never an answer.
Yeah. Having had a fungal infection myself, I understand that the diagnosis journey, I think you and I were both middle of the road in ours. I mean, sometimes it's even worse and more delayed. But once you were diagnosed, what was your treatment journey like? I mean, what did they do? Did you have any hiccups? Was it smooth once you got diagnosis?
Yeah, go ahead. It was rough.
It was rough. So when we were at the first hospital, they started on amphotericin for the 2 weeks we were there. He had that. And then when we moved him finally, after being in intensive care at the other hospital, he was on amphotericin there, and they got him to where he was stable and he could go home. And when he went home, he went on itraconazole, and we were going to see Dr. Speck in 30 days, see him in his office for the first time. Well, in those 30 days, John had a reaction, obviously, to itraconazole. And I was like, wow, you're gaining. The belly was huge and his eyes were turning yellow. So it caused him to have stage 2 liver failure. So that got us into another hospital visit, had to have a liver biopsy. And that also, when the liver was going through all that, it caused him to have like varices now in his esophagus. So we have to watch for that because the pressure in the liver was so high when it was failing. So that happened. And then we came off itraconazole and we were on nothing for a while, like for a few days, maybe a couple weeks or so. And at that point, we had already called the Mayo Clinic and had an appointment in Jacksonville, Florida. Because from the nightmare of nobody telling us what it was or not sure what it was just a second opinion. So we went there and they confirmed everything that WashU said, that it was, itraconazole, or it was histoplasmosis. We came back, we saw Dr. Speck. And at that point, he wanted John to go back in the hospital because he needed to do amphotericin again because the histo was so bad. Well, I begged and pleaded and asked him if we could do it at home. So he got a PICC line, and every day I ran the amphotericin for him with the fluids. And during that time, it was like from October until probably like February, we did that every day here. He had some hiccups because like his potassium would become too high, because the home health nurse would come in, but we were able to stay home finally, and we're able to do it here. But it was a really long journey because it took like 7 and 8 hours to just administer him the medication through the IV. We had a couple times he had to go in and have his belly drained and his lungs drained because of the fluid. But finally, like early February is when we got to be able to stop that. And then he went on an oral antifungal medication for the histo.
And Rob, this was pretty rough on me. It was kind of bumpy road for a long time, but it was also rough on Mary, on my wife, because she was kind of following the same road that I was, and it had its ups, but it had a lot of downs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mary's done a good job of describing your treatment, but tell me like how you felt on the drugs. So, I mean, I've been on amphotericin, I've been on itraconazole, I've been on several other azoles. I mean, I know there's side effects and everybody's different, but what were the side effects like first on the amphotericin?
I was horribly fatigued. I slept probably 22 hours a day. And it was just, I felt like I could hardly move because I was so fatigued. And it was, like Mary said, it took 8 or 9 hours to infuse, to do the IV infusion. So that's the better part of the day.
You're nauseous.
Yeah, I was nauseous. That stayed with me for quite some time, and I still get it a little bit now.
I don't know about you, Rob, but he was like the confusion, the brain fog.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know that it ever goes away. Obviously we have similar experiences with different diseases and similar drugs, but I don't think it ever goes 100% away for everybody. But it does improve.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we learn to adapt pretty well. So what about on the oral medications? What are the side effects like with that?
Go ahead.
On the
itraconazole and then the other drugs.
The itraconazole is the one that gave him stage 2 liver failure. So that one was no good, obviously. And the other ones, if I remember correctly, made him very confused and made him really sick to your stomach, because then Dr. Speck stopped it, because we were like, let's just see how we go from here. Yeah. And you stopped those.
Yeah. And, Rob, I didn't, it was very uplifting for me when I was able to meet and talk with some other histo patients and obviously their caregiver. And I saw the whole range of things, some a lot worse than mine, but it was just as much. It was almost just as hard on the caregiver as it was on the patient.
Yeah, definitely. So what was it? 2018 when you stopped? When did you stop taking the oral medications?
2018 March. It's probably March of 2018.
Okay. And so that's been what, six-ish years now?
Yeah.
Do you still have follow-up care with Dr. Speck, and how are you doing now?
I'm doing, I think I'm where I'm at, and I do see I was seeing Dr. Speck once a week
in the beginning
for quite a while, and then that gradually came back. I saw him a month or so, 2 months ago, and we're rolling it back to once a year. But of course, I can contact him anytime something goes downrange.
Do you feel like having a physician that understood your disease made you more comfortable? Did it give you, like, really more for you, Mary? How did you feel? I mean, knowing that you had a doctor that had a plan B. I mean, I know personally, it was helpful for my wife and I.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so John came home on the itraconazole, and he was a little bit delirious from being at the hospital for so long, they said, and like we were transitioning at home. And I remember calling Dr. Speck because I was worried, because I was like, what, he should be popping back to himself. What is going on? And Dr. Speck said to me, I said, is he going to be okay? I think I asked him that. I said, is he going to be okay? And I hadn't met Dr. Speck yet. And I was on the phone with him, and he said, I can tell you this. He said, you might not have, I don't know how old you were, 57, 55?
54.
50. You might not have your 54-year-old husband back, but I promise you, you'll have your 62 or 65-year-old. And at that moment, I was like, what? And I said to him, I go, what are you saying to me? He said, I promise you he'll come out of it, but things will just be different. And then just his reassurance, because he knew what he had and he knew how this plays out or what's going to happen, that was comforting to me. I was comforted that we had a doctor that cared that much, that put his whole heart into the situation, that gave me his cell phone number. And even when he was out of the country and John was in the ER one night, I was able to call him and he talked to the people in the ER. So things went a lot smoother, because if you go to an ER that doesn't have any idea what histo is, you are starting from the beginning, and nobody knew what to do. I remember watching the doctors in the ER going, he's got histoplasmosis. What is that? What are we supposed to do? His lungs are filled with fluid. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay. And I hated it, but I would call Dr. Speck and he would talk to them and say, this is what you have to do. I mean, I believe in my whole heart, we are blessed beyond measure because we had him. I believe if John had anyone else, we would not be sitting here right now.
When I was released from the hospital, my infectious disease doctor literally gave me a note that basically said something to the effect of, this is my patient. If he shows up in your ED, admit him and call me.
That's amazing.
And it was just like,
Yep.
you know, and it was like, this is the emergency room you go to, because this is an emergency room associated with where you were admitted. This is where I practice. You show up at this emergency room, you give them this note, and they will, and that's all you do.
Yeah. That's what Dr. Speck did.
I don't know if everybody else gets that lucky, but we got lucky.
And I am glad that you got that lucky, and the goal is for that to not be an issue of luck, but be more standardized. And that's why we want to do these videos, is to help educate patients. I mean, and to that end, what do you wish you knew when you started this process about, you know, chronic illnesses or just disease in general?
I'd never been a sick person. You know, I'd never, a cold occasionally. I'd never been a sick person. So every day I thought, okay, this is going to be over tomorrow or the next day. And it just went downhill from there. But I guess when I got to where I am now, it took a while for me to, I guess deal with it or wrap my head around it, that the damage to my lungs was there. That wasn't going to go away. The muscle wasting, I could work out, 10 hours a day and it wouldn't benefit me. So once I realized or kind of wrapped my head around it, it got better. And when I was fortunate enough to meet some other patients, I looked and I thought, well, I wasn't the worst case, although I was pretty bad. I wasn't the worst case.
I guess what I wish I would have known is that there was a resource out there to help me, like with MyCare now, that's going to be able to help other patients. I want people to be able to know that they can reach out for help. I would have loved to be able to talk to you, Rob, through this, or, just because I didn't know it. I mean, and it's scary when the healthcare people that are coming into your room every day, they don't understand it. And I can Google histoplasmosis and I can Google disseminated histoplasmosis and read about it, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand like how he got it or where. And it was just a lot.
Yeah.
Just to have support would have been great.
Yeah. All right. So to that effect, what would you like histoplasmosis patients to know?
I would like them to educate themselves and their caregiver on what exactly it is, what kind of is going to happen. I know it's a big gray area from not being diagnosed to being diagnosed, and there's a big gray area from there, but to look for resources, to educate yourself. For months, I couldn't, get on my computer and, comprehend anything. And with the MyCare organization, that's going to be a great resource. And I'm very proud to be part of that. And like I said, whatever I can do.
I would want them to know that there's help out there, that there is people out there that can help you. I would want the doctor to be able to say, here, reach out to MyCare. There's resources there. They can help you. They'll tell you which way to go. I mean, just the reassurance that no matter how bad it might look at that moment, there's always hope. I mean, because at times you felt like there wasn't. I mean, it's a roller coaster ride, but if the physicians and nurses knew to like tell people like, here, just go to this website or reach out to this person. I mean, that would have been amazing, because, you have this disease that people don't hear or understand, and you tell like your family members and they're like, well, he looks okay. Okay, well, he isn't okay. That they don't, like, your family doesn't get it. It's very hard. It's just hard. And if people just knew that they had help, that there was help out there, that would be beneficial.
And one example, Rob, was I have a friend that's got a big area of property up in northern Missouri. He hunts, he fishes, all that. And they do a burn every year where they burn the grass off and do that. And he asked me, he said, just want to come up and hang out? And I said, well, absolutely not. And I said, that's where, you're going to end up like me if you don't take some steps. And then we had a pretty in-depth conversation about it. And I said, you better have a mask on, be protected from it when you're doing that. And he never thought of that. Nobody ever thought of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess I educated a couple people there, got the word to them.
So in 2023, we got to meet face to face
Yes.
at the patient summit in Denver. What would you say was the most memorable part of that summit for each of you?
Rob, it was meeting you and some of the other experts there, but it was also meeting other patients and their caregivers, and learning that I wasn't the worst. I was where I was at, but at least I knew there was other people fighting the same fight.
Yeah, meeting the caregivers was like a huge thing, because you feel isolated sometimes because this is your life and this is what you're doing and things are changing. And it was nice to hear other people's stories. I mean, to hear their stories and know that I'm not the only person, and I know I'm not, but just the reassurance that it's all the same. I mean, and just meeting like you guys, other patients that have gone through all of this, that was just eye-opening. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think we talk about the patients being isolated, but being a caregiver is also isolating. You isolate from the people that you're used to engaging with, but also you don't have your support network, but at the same time, you don't know what to expect, and
right.
and you can't solve the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was in bad shape for quite some time, but for a year and a half, maybe more, I was Mary's full-time job. I was never left alone in the house. And, she, when I was in the hospital, she would go home late at night, we had some, teenagers at home. She'd go home to make sure, the house was still standing, and there was, she had clean clothes, but then she'd be back at the hospital, at 6 a.m. in case a doctor came in and, then she could hear what was going on because I couldn't remember anything.
Yeah. So what would you most like to see MyCare accomplish? Is it something along resources? Is it engagement? Is it improving outcomes for patients, or just education?
Oh, improving outcomes for patients would be amazing, and engaging and support. I mean, resources, all of it. I mean, but the outcome for a patient, to be able to help them through that journey. Yeah. I am a huge advocate for that. I would go to the ends of the earth for that, because it was.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Well, for quite some time, I thought I was going to get better and go back to work. And fortunately, I had an employer that was just, they were great to me. They were tip top. And they said, as soon as you get better, you have your job. Don't worry about that. You have your insurance. You have your job, which I wasn't in a place to even think about that. But just knowing that, that just takes, one little piece of the pie and in education and what you need to know. And it was very difficult. It was very difficult when I had to finally make that decision. And, I had to go in and talk to the fire chief and talk to some of my friends and say, I realized that it was several years. I said, I'm not going to get any better than I am now. I'm not going to be able to, to do what I need to do. They couldn't even put me in the fire marshal's office, to work 8-hour days because I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. And I had to take afternoon naps. The education, the resources, and peer support, I guess, is what I mean to say.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share? Either it can be words of encouragement, experiences that you've had, anything. Final thoughts, basically.
Words of encouragement: you can't give up, and you just have to be an advocate, and you have to fight and do whatever you have to do to figure it out, because it's your loved one, it's your family member, it's your friend. And you just have to hold on and know that there are resources out there. And MyCare, I hope, is going to be the biggest thing for people to go to soon. That's my biggest hope. And just never give up. You can't give up, no matter how hard it is. I mean, you probably understand that, Rob, a lot, that the road is very, very bumpy at times. And you wonder, you get to one step and then maybe you have to go back 10 steps. But if you could have the support and the resources to help a patient, I think that's what's most important right now, is people just need the education and know what to do or where to go.
Yeah.
You want to add anything to that, John?
Along that line, I had friends coming to visit me, and everybody was under the assumption that John Meyer, is not going to be down long. When they came to see me, they were like, whoa, we can tell, and they were like, come on, you know how to survive things, and after a period of time, I had to say, it's not going to, I'm not going any farther.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for sharing your experience. I know it's difficult at times, but it's powerful. And this is a very important step in supporting other patients, in moving into providing that peer support and those resources for patients. So thank you very much for sharing your time with us and your story.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.